Hello, welcome to another video. Today I wanted to talk about books that I feel like are really good for maybe getting you out of a reading slump or books to bring you back into the world of reading. I know as we enter into a new year, and I am aware we're in February right now, but you know, we're still at the start of a new year. People can be bringing in new resolutions, they can be bringing in old feelings of burnout potentially. Everyone's on a different footing, and sometimes that might mean that you're a little out of touch with the things that you normally enjoy, or maybe you're just feeling slumpy. Maybe you just read a really amazing chunky fantasy and you can't quite find anything to get back into. I don't think I've specifically said that this is just going to be young adult books to help get you back into reading. If you enjoy this video and you want another part, then I can make one that is adult books as well. This one is just going to be talking about young adult books. So I've picked out 10 books that in my opinion are, I wouldn't say easy reads because some of them are quite emotional reads, but they are easy in the sense of I always wanted to pick these books up when I was reading them and keep going with them. They always felt like they were kind of calling to me when I wasn't reading them. I always wanted to be reading them, and I think that's a really good sign of a book that can get you out of a slump and can get you back into reading, can remind you what you love about reading. So let's go through the 10 books in no particular order. The first one is a fairly recent release. This is A Single Thread of Moonlight by Laura Wood. This is a brilliant Cinderella, loosely Cinderella retelling. Laura Wood's books always follow a really strong feminist female character, and this one is no different. We follow our main character who has to go back to her family home after disguising herself and completely separating her life from that family home, but she has to go back and ends up getting swept up in the lifestyle she could have had, and has a little bit of a kind of Cinderella retelling element to it in that sense, and ends up finding some kind of romantic interest there as well. Laura Wood's books are historical romances, and it's just brilliant. The settings in these books are always just superb, and the way that the characters feel so real are so good. I always care so much. I am not the biggest fan of romance, but if Laura Wood is writing it, you can bet I will read it, and you can bet I will most likely give it 5 stars. This one is no exception. It's so good. If you are feeling slumpy and you just want some light relief, just pick these up. They don't fall into the stereotypical, I say these as in like any Laura Wood book, but this one particularly, they don't fall into the stereotypical romance tropes either, like the kind of annoying things where people get mad at each other and there's a big falling out. Like I can't stand those things in romance when there's kind of some big stupid pivotal thing that you know is going to be an issue. It's like they see those kind of opportunities, and Laura Wood's writing does touch on things like that, but it's much wider than that, and I really enjoy that, and I think that makes any of Laura Wood's books read a little bit different to your standard romance / historical romance. So would really highly recommend anything written by her, but one of my favourites is A Single Thread of Moonlight. Also, just off the side of this, I really enjoy that the way Iris in this, the main character, is always kind of looking back on her past and seeing how she's changed and who she's become, but it's always got the reflections of the past in it. It makes it a really nice novel for reflective thinking, as well as building a really powerful future for herself, which is also what she does. Then one of my possibly new favourite series, and it's not even finished yet, is Dangerous Remedies by Kat Dunn. This is the first book. There is 2 out at the moment, and the 3rd one comes out later this year, or early this year, but like later in the year from now. And oh my gosh, the story in these books is brilliant. So good. This is set in France in the late 1700s, and we're in a kind of fantasy world. We follow a group of friends / colleagues in a way. They are all kind of this band of people that go together to help free people from prison and from their potential deaths, and they are set to free one specific person that ends up being a much bigger job than they ever signed on for. This is so good. The characters are fantastic. Al is so brilliant. His dry wit and humour is just fantastic. This immediately jumps into the adventure and the action from page 1, which I love, but it doesn't make you feel like you've been left behind, like you are still completely established with who everyone is, where the setting is, what their relationships with each other is. It's so good, for so many reasons. The second one is just as brilliant. I cannot wait to see where Kat Dunn takes this in the 3rd book. It's gonna be great. This one I think I would recommend for multiple reasons to get you out of a slump or get you back into reading. One, I think it is a real attribute to YA and highlights some of the best aspects of YA. 2, I think that it is just so action-packed and fast-paced that you will just forget that you're even reading and you'll just assume you're watching a film in your head. And 3, I think the way the character dynamics work with each other as well just makes you feel like you are reading about real people, which I think is always a brilliant attribute of a book. For so many reasons, I love this book. It's got LGBT characters, it has brilliant romances, the action is amazing, the setting's amazing, the magic system is really cool. I just love it. It's great. Would highly recommend. This next one is an oldie but a goodie. I feel like I can't do a video like this recommending you YA books to get you back into reading without talking about some of the older YA books that are like the more traditional YA books. So that book is The Sun Is Also a Star by Nicola Yoon. You've probably read this one already, but I'm still throwing it on the list because if it's been a while ago since you read it, like me, then I would highly advise a reread. This follows two characters during one day and is a very intense romance. This follows Natasha and Daniel, who meet on Natasha's last day in America before she is deported to Jamaica. So this is a very fleeting romance. It is very beautiful, very intense, very sad and heartbreaking, but it will you won't put it down. You will not be able to put it down. The fact that it takes place in one day means you really do feel like you're kind of reading along semi-real time. So it feels very intense for a reading experience. I would highly advise reading this in as few sittings as possible. I think you would get the most out of it because of how intense the story is. It's just very strong and very emotive and brilliant, and I really loved it. So this one goes on there too because this will definitely get you out of a reading slump. Then we have Kelsey Rodkey's Last Chance books. If you have watched the film You've Got Mail and you enjoyed it, you will like this book because this is pretty much a retelling of that film. It follows two people who work in opposing bookshops. So one of them works in a chain and one of them works in an independent, and the chain is pretty much squashing the life out of the independent. And there is a romance between these two people. Not only do you get a brilliant love of books in this story, but you also get quite a good rivalry and enemies to lovers type of romance. The reason I put this on the list is, one, it is just a fun, easy read. You don't really have to think too much whilst you're reading it, and it's just easy to kind of settle down, cozy up with it, and just dedicate a couple of hours just to falling into the story. Two, because this is a book about a love of books, I always personally feel like reading those kind of books sparks my love even more for reading and makes me want to read even more books. So if you're trying to get out of a slump or you're trying to get back into reading, this book will definitely help inspire that because it's all about a passion for reading. Then we have Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus. I knew I wanted to put a YA thriller on this list, but I didn't know which one to put. I was looking at Holly Jackson books and I was looking at Karen M. McManus, and I think Karen M. McManus is kind of the definitive YA thriller writer. The amount of thrillers she has out that just tick all the YA thriller boxes is vast. Her newest one that I've already forgotten the name of, oh no, what's it called? You'll Be the Death of Me? That one I didn't find as good personally. I think this one for me was my favourite of hers, hence why I've put it in this video. But this follows two siblings who are moving to this small town and have to get involved in the school environment there, get jobs and start their lives in this new town basically. So they end up getting swept up in these killings that are going on. I think it's prom queens that are being killed. Homecoming queens are found dead, and this is something that happened in the past and now is happening again in the present day, and these siblings decide they're going to try and find out what's happening, get swept up in it. Very atmospheric, this one. I felt there's a fair setting and that a lot of the book takes place around that setting, and I still have that quite strong in my mind. So yeah, I really liked this one. It was very fast paced. It's definitely one that I kept wanting to go back to and read within a couple of days, I think, because you just want to know what's happening. It's very compelling, and that is what I think you need when you want to get back into reading. So yes, Two Can Keep a Secret by Karen M. McManus, or any of Karen M. McManus or Holly Jackson's books. Brilliant YA thrillers. Tiffany D. Jackson as well. Excellent YA thrillers. There's so many good YA thrillers out there. Okay, for this next one I apologise because this is Ever at the moment, and it's funny because this came out quite a while ago when I was starting my Bookstagram and anything talking about books on the internet related, so it's funny to see it now making a resurgence because TikTok's talking about it more. That is They Both Die at the End by Adam Silvera. I read this book years ago and it is still traumatising me to this day. The concept is terrifying. The concept of this book is that if you are going to die on a specific day, you receive a phone call between 12 and 3 in the morning, I think it is, on that day, telling you you're going to die. Now, the reason that I find this concept terrifying is not only that you get that phone call, but also I wonder, does the phone call end up being the thing that inadvertently causes the death, or the thing that would cause the death? And were you ever going to die if you didn't receive that phone call? Does the phone call cause the death? It hurts my brain. I know there's another one coming out within this series slash world in which you get these phone calls, and I will definitely be reading that, but I will also be prepared to be traumatized again because it just plays with your brain. This follows two people who both have been given their death day and they don't have anyone to spend it with, so they meet on this app that pairs people together when they are on their last day, and they decide to spend the day together, and of course they have a romance, and yeah, it made me cry a lot. It made me feel things, and I still think about it to this day. I'm glad it's getting a kind of second wave because it's very good and scary. But yes, I read this one God knows when, and I kind of want to reread it just to put myself through the pain again. I have one tab here, right in the middle, and I don't even know why I've tabbed this part. I've read back over it, I'm like, I don't know why I tabbed that one page. I don't know. Thanks, Path Beth, for making that really clear to me. But yes, this book, traumatizing, but very addictive. You will absolutely have to read it in one sitting because you just can't, you can't not know what's happening with these characters. Dedicate a day to read this one, but it will absolutely get you hooked to reading. The next book comes as part of a pair because I can't talk about one without talking about the other, the sequel to this duology. We have These Violent Delights and Our Violent Ends by Chloe Gong. This book, this series is genius. So good. It is a 1920s Romeo and Juliet retelling set in Shanghai. And it is fantastic. It is political, it is romantic, it is high drama, it is full of action, and it is just brutal and excellent. It has the best characters. I absolutely love the characters. They are so real and such brilliant reflections of characters that we already know from the Romeo and Juliet storyline, but retold in a different way and modernised at the same time as obviously being relevant to a 1920s world, but we're seeing a different type of version of these characters that is written for a modern audience, perhaps would be the right way to say it. But oh, it's such a good duology. This series is kind of reminiscent of when I used to read YA and just absolutely be completely obsessed with it, and I don't think I get that feeling as much anymore with some of the books. I think that the plot lines can become a bit regenerated and regurgitated, and it seems like everything that's been done has been done. And at times it feels like there isn't anything fresh coming out of it, and it's kind of the same stories regenerated, which is obviously what stories do anyway, like they all take inspiration from each other. But this series, as much as this is based on literally one of the most famous stories ever, it just feels fresh and it just does it so well and still surprises you. I cannot praise this enough. This has restored my faith in the fact I thought I was going off YA and I didn't want to feel like that, but this series has made me realise that maybe it's just some YA I'm not as keen on anymore, but it reined it back in for me. It is brilliant. Would recommend, 10 out of 10. Then I have Felix Ever After by Kaysen Callender. This is a really lovely YA contemporary story that is all about our main character Felix finding themselves and going through this journey at school and seeing what it is that they love and how they want to live their life and how the people around them will fit into that. I just loved this from the perspective of seeing, like, you know when you watch an episode of Queer Eye and you see someone come out the other end of it and they just feel so much more themselves and you can see that joy on their face? That is the kind of vibe I would say Felix Ever After gives. It is that joy feeling of seeing everything that Felix goes through and coming out the other side of it and how that has shaped them along the way. So yeah, it's a contemporary YA following Felix. Felix has also never been in love, and that is a big part of finding themselves and going on that journey as well. It's just really lovely. It's very cute. It's very wholesome. And you'll come out of it feeling like you've watched a Queer Eye episode in which you've watched somebody go through these transformations and come out of it feeling so much better. Second to last, I would like to recommend you Heartstopper by Alice Osman. I know most of you watching this will probably have read this already, but on the off chance you haven't, and it's sat there on your shelf and you just haven't got to it yet, please allow me to try and sway you. This is a graphic novel series following Nick and Charlie throughout their school days. They have a romance together, and this documents that romance from start to, I don't know where it's going because the series isn't finished yet, but it is just lovely for so many reasons. It's very raw and real in places and has some really important things that are discussed in every single installment in this series and every single volume of the graphic novels, and I won't go into saying like what they are because I don't want to spoil any of the future ones, but they all offer something really unique, and I think that is brilliant because this is not just a YA contemporary graphic novel series with romance in it. This is also something that talks about so many wider topics and is so important. The reason I put it in this list is not only because of all that stuff as well, but also because this is a graphic novel series. It is an easier format to read. It's very visual, of course, like the illustrations are just, I absolutely adore them. Hang on, I'll go to one near at the start so I don't spoil anything. I love the illustration style. It's now become so familiar that obviously this is now book, well, there's 4? Yeah, there's 4 books out. I think the 5th one comes out. I want to say the summertime, I might be completely wrong, and I think that's the last one, is it? Which I'm not ready for, but it just feels like home reading these books now, and I think if you haven't read them yet, just pick them up. They're so brilliant, they're so lovely, they teach brilliant lessons, and they're just great. I've used many positive words, but that's because they're great books. I used great again. They're fantastic, sublime, amazing, all the good things. And lastly, another rather pink fairy loot edition of a book. We have Once Upon a Broken Heart by Stephanie Garber. Again, stunning. Absolutely love this one up on my shelves. The pink is so pretty. So this is set in the same world as the Caraval trilogy. So if you've read those books, you will know kind of what you're getting yourself into a little bit with this one. Now, I believe that Stephanie Garber has said you can read this without having read the Caraval trilogy. I've read this, and I would say if you do go into it without having read the Caraval trilogy, one, you will inadvertently get spoilers for the end of that trilogy, but if you don't know any of the characters or what's happening anyway, you might not see that they're a spoiler. But two, you're not going to quite get the same context for a little bit of what's happening if you haven't first read that trilogy. So completely up to you if you want to go into it without having read them or not. The Caraval trilogy is amazing. It's so good. So this follows Evangeline Fox, who is a new character to this universe. We do follow Jax, who is a character from the Caraval universe as well, but we've got a new character as our primary main protagonist. And she makes a deal with Jax and quickly realizes that the deal is a little bit more than she expected, and Jax actually wants quite a lot more from her, and she gets trapped into this situation as a result of this. And this is about her trying to work out what to do with that and work out how to get what she wants out of the situation and not be trapped in it anymore. It's brilliant. The magic system is so expansive. These books are always fantastic for the way they create this magic. But also, I personally always find these books very honest and honing in on heartbreak and healing. I think they do such a good job of talking about anything like that. And I think Stephanie Garber just brilliantly puts into words the way that so many people have felt and experienced things within the world of heartbreak and of feeling shit from it. And I just think that these books are always going to offer some kind of solace for anyone that's gone through that kind of thing. And for that reason, they will always hold a special place in my heart because of what they can do for people that are trying to heal. But just generally, such a brilliant magic system, so escapist. I love the characters, I love the setting, and I just really loved being able to jump back into this world with different characters and explore it in a different way than what I did with the Caraval trilogy. So this is my final book on my recommendations. So those are my YA books to help you get back into reading, to help you get out of a reading slump. I hope you've enjoyed this video. I hope you've enjoyed these recommendations. I'm so wary that there's probably like a pool of X amount of books I always recommend from, but at the same time, I haven't done too many sit-down recommendations videos for a while, so hopefully I've read enough different books in that time and also involved some old book goodies in there too, just to kind of offer a wide range of recommendations. I'm aware that some of you may well have read most of those, but hopefully you enjoyed the video. Anyway, I enjoyed picking out these books. I will be doing another part to this if you would like. Let me know in the comments. That will be adult books to help get you out of a reading slump / get you back into reading. Let me know in the comments if that's something you would like. Thank you so much for watching this video. If you did enjoy it, please do give it a thumbs up. Comment down below, as I said, if you would like to see an adult version of this, or leave me the little sparkle, gold sparkle emoji down below of people getting their spark back for reading and being sparked out of their reading slump. I like that emoji, like the sparkly. I'll pop it here, that one. And you can subscribe to see more of my face on your feed. You can also find my Patreon link down below, where I am doing loads of live shows throughout the month of February, and most of them will have, well, not most of them, some of them will have kicked off by the time you're watching this, but there'll be loads going to March as well. Very excited about it all. Cannot wait to be able to create more content for my patrons as well. I have lots of exciting things coming, so it's gonna be great. Yeah, thank you so much for watching. Keep smiling and stay positive.